Hi, I'm Trankoalaty. Welcome to my channel. Today, talking about The Message, book number 4 in the Animorphs series. It's 154 pages long. It was published in October of 1996. And as you can see, I have a reprinted copy of this book. Mine is not the original. They changed it to include these lenticular covers instead of the nice pretty picture with the morphing in it. You can see there's no picture in the front of this one. And they also got rid of the morph icon in the lower right corner. So you don't get to see that today because I don't have that in this book. I'm not a huge fan of the change to the cover. I think I prefer the original by a lot. This is the first book narrated by Cassie. She's turning into a dolphin on the cover. I do not remember anything really about this book. Based on the cover and the name of the book, I have a pretty good guess that this one they're going to get dolphins. They always get the animal on the cover. And they're going to go into the ocean. And I think, before reading, I thought this one's the one that's going to introduce the new character. Somebody trapped under the water in the ocean, perhaps? It's also the fourth, new location. They're just going through all the different biomes and morphing into creatures in there. So what do we got left? We got jungle and desert and maybe the plains. I think that the ocean is really scary. I didn't grow up near an ocean. Being in the Midwest, not a lot of oceans near there. I think it's also probably just scary for the kids in the book too. The other thing I thought before reading this was they really can't make it very far in the water because the fastest land animal is only a cheetah, but the fastest fish is not a dolphin, for one. It's also not that fast. So in 2 hours, you could go only so far. So they really only have a limited chance to get somewhere in the ocean. The ocean is pretty big. And then I guess if they did have to unmorph, they'd be in the ocean in the middle of nowhere. And that is terrifying to me. And also, if they did that underwater, humans can't breathe underwater, so that'd be pretty bad. Unless we evolved gills, like some sort of half fish, half human type thing. On top of all of those dangers of the water being unbreathable and such, there's predators in the ocean. I feel like there's a lot of there's predators on land too, but pretty much everything in the ocean has something bigger that eats it, right? Almost everything. Even whales have predators that eat them. But anyways, enough of the doom talk. I do recall that they, before reading this, I do recall that they enjoy being dolphins. The dolphins like to jump out of the water and have fun. Dolphins have whimsy. Other than that, I don't really remember anything. There's no acknowledgments at the start of the book, so we can assume that the author took some liberties with their dolphin info. So with that, let's dive in. The book starts with Cassie talking about how she couldn't sleep. She's been having some weird dreams. And so she went into the barn because something has been eating some of the birds that they've been recuperating in there. And they have a squirrel that they're taking care of. And her plan is to morph into the squirrel and see if whatever shows up again tonight. There's only a 2-hour window for morphing. That's one thing. And also, she's holding the squirrel while she morphs into it. Which, kind of weird. But also, squirrel? You could have morphed into something a little bit bigger and, less defenseless, right? Anyways, she's holding this squirrel, and she's like, I'm gonna morph into this squirrel. And so she's holding the squirrel, she's giving it a nut to lure it out and stuff, gets its DNA, it starts morphing into it while she's holding it. Why didn't she put it back in the cage first? I don't know. It's midnight. She's not thinking very clearly. It's fine because the squirrel got so scared of of her morphing that it ran back to the cage and shut the door all on its own. Well-trained squirrel, that one. She describes the squirrel as being full of energy and hyper aware of all the dangers and predators around. And she grabs one of the nuts that she dropped on the floor when she was luring the squirrel out. Tobias shows up, and you know how squirrels love hawks. No! It didn't like that a lot. And so the squirrel's freaking out and she's trying to get it under control. I also want to know, why is Tobias here? Hawks are not nocturnal, so shouldn't he be nesting somewhere? I noted that Cassie has a different writing style as well. That's it feels gentler than the others, at least so far. So Cassie's struggling to get the squirrel under control. Tobias, as a hawk, is watching her, and he's about to, like, it looks like he's about to eat her. That's when the culprit for the missing birds comes in, and it's a fox. A fox that somehow has figured out how to, like, push through one of the loose boards, and it sees a tasty little squirrel snack sitting on the floor. So at this point, we've got a squirrel, a fox, and a hawk in a barn at midnight. Sounds like a terrible setup for a joke. That seems to be the impetus that Cassie needed to get the squirrel brain under control. And she's like, Tobias, help! And so Tobias, like, takes a little dive at the fox to scare it away. And so she unmorphs from the squirrel. Her dad comes in and is like, hey, what's going on in here? Hearing all the commotion of a squirrel and a fox and a hawk jumping around. And she's still unmorphing, and he's like, oh, I'm just really sleepy. It looked like you had a tail for a second there. Like, anyways, all of that anticlimactic. He's like, all right, just go back to bed. He leaves, doesn't take her with, doesn't make sure she goes back to bed. I don't know what that's about. But instead of leaving, she just stays there and, like, sits in the hay and starts talking to Tobias. And she's like, I'm out here because I couldn't sleep. And so I thought I would, try to catch whatever's eating the birds around here. And she's like, I had a bunch of dreams about the sea and a voice calling from help. And guess what? Tobias is having those same dreams. Maybe that's why he couldn't sleep either. So the next day after school, they all gather at Rachel's house while the rest of her family's out. And Tobias and Cassie are the only ones having these dreams. I wrote down, it's fun how my notes are confirming things that later happen. I wonder if that's because they're the most in tune with animals. Tobias being trapped as a hawk and Cassie being the kid of veterinarians. Takes the opportunity to go around the room, introduce everybody. Rachel's her friend and pretty and abrasive, and Marco's smart and funny and annoying, and Jake is Jake. She actually talks about Jake and she's like, I would never tell Jake, but I like him. And it's in italics. She likes him. Fun little aside. She could have also said she likes him. I love introducing this concept that I learned about years ago called lexical cloning. And it's when you use a word twice in a row, but it means something different. So you can say things like, or salad. Is that a tuna salad or a salad? But she didn't use that kind of linguistic technique. She uses italics. None of the rest of them are having dreams, just Tobias and Cassie. But Jake has been quiet through all of this. Marco and Rachel are like, I don't know, he's sounding kind of strange over here. And Jake is like, well, actually, I want to show you all this. And he pulls out a videotape. Not everyone has DVR, quote from the book. And they go to watch something that he recorded on the news last night. And it's a small little interview of some old guy on the beach. And he's like, I found this strange piece of metal on the beach. And look, there's this weird writing on it. And Jake is like, I think that's the writing that was in Elfangor's ship when I went in there to get the cube, to get the powers. Like, I think that's the same. That's Andalite technology right there. And Cassie faints. She faints and she has this, like, vision that she's just, like, falling into water, and she hears a voice in her head and it's saying, I'm here and I can't survive much longer. And so it's definitely the last character of the cast, or at least the next character of the cast. And I can tell you it's an Andalite named X. And I also noted, like, doesn't he have any morphs? Why is he, like, trapped in wherever he thinks, wherever he's trapped at? Why does he think that he can't do anything about it, I guess? And then also, when do Andalites get the power to morph? Do they just give it to them when they're born? Or do they have to, like, graduate the equivalent of high school to get it? Do Andalites have to, like, become adults before they get the power to morph? Not really, no, because he's an adolescent. Also, does the morphing ability fade over time, or is it permanent? Could they just give them the ability to morph right away when they're babies and they don't even know it? I don't know. Anyways, all I can tell you at this point is it's an adolescent Andalite that goes with our adolescent humans. And then I also had a small little note while I was talking about all this stuff. How does it work if they acquire the DNA for something that's like a really old animal? Say like a 20-year-old dog. Are they going to turn out like a 20-year-old dog, or are they going to turn out like that dog when it was in its prime? Like, how does it determine what age? Like, I don't know how this works. Is it just... Okay, I don't know how it determines what age, because the DNA it doesn't hold an age. Age is like a concept of like time. Too high level questions. It's magic. Just like Mystique and X-Men. They could just make a copy of what they see in front of them at the moment. That's what we're going with. So she's fainted. She wakes up. It's maybe been like a minute. Tobias has also fainted and had the same vision, and the rest of them vaguely felt something, but they don't really know what. They surmise that it must be some sort of distress signal or something like that, and they don't really know what to do yet. They question Tobias and Cassie, and they're like, was that a voice? The voice you're talking about that you heard, was it a human? And I think that's interesting, because like, they confirmed that it was thought speech, but it wasn't like you don't hear that, you know, it's just in your head. But it wasn't in English, was it? But they still understood it. And that's same with Elfangor in the first book. Do they like just have like universal understandability in thought speech or something? And also, does the thought speech have to be your voice? Could you project any kind of voice you want? I mean, it's your thoughts, right? Like, the times when they're being taunted by Visser 3, they don't respond because they're like, that would give away that we're not human. But, like, I can change my internal thoughts. It's not restricted by my vocal folds or anything, you know? Like, I could have any kind of thoughts I want. They use this questioning section to recap the first book, or where they got their powers, and a little bit of, like, who the Yeerks are. And they all agree that they're going to try to help somehow. This was where I noted, like, 2 hours is just not very long to like do anything with, unless you're already in the location you need to be. Like, humans can travel really far in a short distance. No, humans can travel far distances in a short amount of time, but that's because of technology. Animals don't have that technology, so like, you have to just pretty much be where you need to be before you can morph, because like, there's just no chance to like do anything with that. So sometime, maybe that night, maybe the next night, sometime at night, they all go to the beach and hope that they can get like a better signal on this distress call. They wonder why Tobias and Cassie are the only ones who hear it. They came to the same conclusion I did, because I'm so smart. They figure that, like, you know, those are the two in tune with animals the most. They also figure that if they're at the beach looking, the Yeerks are probably also going to be looking for this, because it was on the news and everything. Tobias is like, hey, he's flying overhead. Even though hawks can't see great at night, he's flying overhead anyways. They can see well enough. He's like, hey, there's lights ahead. Y'all should hide, like, you know, just over the next dune or whatever. And so they all go hiding in some beach grass nearby. Tobias scopes it out, you know, goes on ahead to like see if he can find out what's going on with these flashlights. And he comes back and he's like, it's the sharing. Assistant Principal Chapman, I don't know why I always say principal. Assistant Principal Chapman and Tom, Jake's brother, are in the group. Clearly they saw the news, and Tobias also overheard so much. Tobias also overheard that the Visser, way out in space, heard the call, the distress signal. And it broke his concentration on whatever he was doing, and he threw a Hork-Bajir out the airlock. He's just the worst. So the sharing is searching the beach, and there's like 20 of them in a line doing like a little search party combing the beach, and they come across fresh footprints for four humans, and they start following the footprints. That's going to lead them right to where the kids are. That's not good. They start running away. They don't want to morph, because then human footprints are going to morph into animals, and that would be kind of a dead giveaway. Pretty smart. Didn't think of that myself. Can these kids really outrun a whole bunch of like teens and adults and stuff? Like, come on, how fast are they? So they figure they don't have to outrun them forever, just long enough to get to the water and morph into fish. But it takes minutes to morph. Not a problem. They're minutes ahead, apparently. Wouldn't they see humans turning into fish at this point? Oh, not a problem. It's dark out. So they also are being fired at with human guns. The Yeerks just have the worst aim. I have to imagine that, sure, they're going to fire at them to say they did their job, but they're actually inept on purpose as a like form of malicious compliance. You know, like Visser 3 didn't say we had to hit people, just that we had to shoot at them. They get to the top of the dunes, clear the other side, and get to the edge of the ocean, start morphing into the trout from the last book. Those are freshwater fish. Is that a problem? Salt water in the ocean, right? Okay, whatever. I also don't know why fish when they could have morphed into birds and flown away, but hey, fish it is. Cassie is morphing and amazingly is able to like hear the conversation of the controllers around her before she finishes. And the conversation, and I quote, "Are these the rogue Andalites? No, human tracks. Does that mean the Visser is wrong? What if it is what if it's not Andalites and it's humans? No, the Visser can't be wrong. Even if he was, I'm not going to challenge him. Hey, we found a pair of jeans over here. Any ID? No, it's probably a coincidence." Literally what they said. Coincidence that you found a pair of... Okay. Coincidence. They all get into their fishy form, swim with the shore on their left side for as long and fast as they can, and unmorph and get away. Yada yada. It's the next day. I like that idea though. The idea of like just keep the beach on your left, and that's how you know like you're going the right direction. That's smart. I wouldn't have thought of that kind of stuff. So the next few days pass. They don't hang out. How long can this Andalite last? I thought he was in distress. I don't know. In that time, they're just doing their normal activities. Rachel's doing gymnastics. Jake is doing homework. Cassie's helping at the clinic. And she's helping with a golden eagle. And apparently they hunt and eat hawks. So Tobias is all like, you should just let that thing die. It's like, what the fuck, Tobias? I thought you liked all birds. I guess we know that hawks do have predators now. Jake goes over to Cassie's house and starts talking to her while she's cleaning up stuff. And he's like, the rest of us aren't really sure what to do. Only you and Tobias are having these dreams, and Tobias isn't able to really help in the ocean, so you get to make the decision of like, what are we gonna do? You know, like, are we gonna do something? The rest of them are like, we don't really know if it's even really real. And I'm just like, what? Okay, you know, there was wreckage on the beach. There was the Visser having the same vision. What do you mean you don't know if it's real? Okay, it's okay though. They're like, okay, it's probably real enough. Let's give it a go. And we need an ocean-faring animal that won't be eaten, hopefully. And the garden has sea lions and dolphins. And she's hesitant to morph into dolphins because they are intelligent creatures. And she feels like it's a moral kind of thing. Like, isn't that kind of like what the Yeerks are doing? But I don't think so. If they're morphing into those things, it's not like they're taking over the original animal. They're still them inside. I don't know. What are my thoughts on this? I think that, like, I think it's fine. Like, it's a copy. It'd be the same as if I went through a teleporter. It's not like I would look at my past self and never mind, not the teleporter problem. After school the next day, they all go to the gardens and they're going to go to the water animal section. I couldn't think of the word for like the aquatic section, the marine animal section. And the dolphin show just ended. So hardly anybody there. Very lucky. And a dolphin is looking at them when they walk up, and it jumps out of the water and starts doing tricks in front of them, and they're all, ooh, ah. And the dolphin trainer is like, that's Joey. He's always trying to get extra fish. And Cassie's like, hey, these are my friends, and introduces everyone, and they pretend that they're just trying to like learn more about dolphins. And the trainer's like, well, as you know, we have 6. Joey, Monica, Rachel, Chandler, Ross, and Phoebe. Friends. It felt very forced to read it, though. The trainer's like, hey, do you want to feed them? These kids are the best social engineers in the world, is what I'm thinking. But also, like, they're just really, really lucky like that. The trainer goes and gets a bucket of fish, and the kids all start feeding dolphins and talking about how they're so cute and smart, and they look like they understand you, and is it really okay to morph them? And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, where's the trainer during this whole conversation that they're having out in the open? Oh, maybe because Cassie's mom works there. She gets a little more leeway. And so Cassie talks to the rest of them, and she's like, isn't this what the Yeerks do? Again, I'm just sitting here like, oh my gosh, I'm having the same questions that the book is having, or coming to the same conclusions, and this is amazing. And I don't think it's the same, because they're not getting rid of the original. They're making a clone that they inhabit. They have a 3-day weekend. So on Friday, they go to a river that's not on the beach, because there's probably going to be lots of people on the beach. And they go to a river that flows into the ocean. They're going to morph into the dolphins in the river and swim to the ocean. Dolphins don't need to care about it being salt or freshwater because they don't have gills. Tobias is going to be the timekeeper. Rachel put a little watch on his tiny little bird leg, and so he's going to like keep track of time for them. And the rest of them, they wade into the river, morph into dolphins. Cassie goes first, of course, and her fears about it being like a thinking being, a thinking brain, are put aside, and she's like, it's just like a little kid, just wants to play, no thoughts. Don't worry, Cassie, I don't think kids have any thoughts either. The next chapter is them just swimming to the ocean. They get there and they're all just playing, jumping in and out of the water a bunch as dolphins. And Tobias is like, hello, you've wasted 45 minutes already. You're supposed to be looking for something. We don't know what, but you're acting like a bunch of 5-year-olds. And they're like, yeah, but we want to play. And then they realize like, hey, what's this? And they do echolocation. And I had completely forgotten that dolphins echolocate. And they just start clicking and clacketing. They find that there's a shark nearby, and sharks eat dolphins. And they don't like that idea because they're dolphins right now. But actually, there's 3 sharks nearby, and they're trying to take down a humpback whale. The dolphin brain is like, they're trying to take down a great one. And so I guess that's what dolphins call whales. They charge in. Well, they swam in. Pretty reckless, I think. They swim in to save this whale. Cassie swims as hard as she can and rams into the gills of one of the sharks. It starts bleeding and swims away. And the rest of the sharks are like also being attacked by the dolphins while they have the element of surprise. The sharks are pretty agile. The battle doesn't last very long, but they scare the sharks away, or at least the sharks give up on the whale, and the other sharks start eating the one that Cassie had bonked and started making that one bleed. So they went into a frenzy and started eating their injured friend. And so after the battle, everyone's like, everyone all right, etc., etc. And nope, Marco was bitten by the shark and his tail is like hanging there and he's like bleeding a lot. I don't know why the sharks didn't come back. Whatever. You know, they have a different one to eat. And he's freaking out. They're all freaking out. Like, oh my God, Marco's going to die. And they realize, like, there's not a lot you can do anyways. So just morph back to human. And that'll probably take care of all your injuries because it's not your DNA that's damaged. It's just this body. The blueprint is fine. You'll end up being whole again. Marco can't swim, but it's fine. We'll use our dolphin bodies and keep you afloat until you can morph back. So Marco morphs back to human. Instead of the dolphins needing to keep him afloat, the whale comes up and lets Marco sit on his back, and Tobias too. And Cassie has like some sort of conversation with the whale via clicks and such, and such, like telepathy, but like for whales. And the whale's like, I've never seen a little one become a human in all my years. I've seen this and that, and hunters, and my kids go and migrating here to there, but never something like that. And also there's something else new in the ocean. And it's the Andalite, of course. Like it gives some sort of image. It telepaths some sort of image of grass and stream and a deer-like creature under the ocean. That's our Andalite that we're looking for. I guess that Cassie's the only one that the whale was talking to for like 10 minutes. None of the rest of them had this go on. And so Marco morphs back into a dolphin, and they all head back to the shore because there's only 25 minutes left. Why couldn't they do like musical morphs on the whale's back and gain another 2 hours and do it that way? I don't know. They just go back to the river and the whale leaves and they're on their way. Next day, Cassie goes to Marco's house and talks and is like, hey, I don't want you to die, and I'm the one who decided we went on that mission, and things are so dangerous and stuff. And he's like, it is what it is. But also, I was going to wait till later, but hey, I saw this in the newspaper. There's 2 ships, a treasure hunter and some other ship, that are going out to sea looking for treasure or like a sunken ship or something. And he's like, and I think those are controllers because like, that's just a cover story for how they're going to get a bunch of divers out there, right? And that kind of escalates their timeline. More than before, like they already know that the Andalite can't stay out there forever, so like why would that escalate their timeline? So before she leaves, Marco is like, you know, we fight all these aliens and I forgot how deadly Earth is with sharks and stuff. Kind of funny, right? He says something that I literally say this all the time. Literally. Not haha funny, but like weird funny. Is that just like a really common phrase, or like, did I pick it up from this book? I don't know. Later that day, they all go back to Rachel's and meet up there and start their plan of how they're going to go out to sea. Cassie and Jake had looked at some maps of the ocean or whatever, and based on the vision that Cassie described from the whale, they think that the place might not be too far out and they might have a good idea of where it is. But it's too far for their 2-hour window of swimming. So their new plan is to morph into seagulls, land on a shipping vessel of some sort or other boat that's going in that direction, unmorph, and then when it gets close, or however, when they think it gets close, dive overboard and morph into dolphins. I still think that doing musical morphing, a musical morph around might be a little bit better of a way, but I don't know. The plan might be dangerous because Yerks might be in the area. It's a big ocean. How would the Yerks know where to go? And they don't really know if there's any ships or anything, right? Like, I don't know how they're going to find a ship going in the direction they need and everything. They decide, like, next morning they're going to morph into seagulls and fly out and land on the ship, and like that'll give them some time in the day. I just think it's really convenient that none of them ever have, like, none of these kids ever have plans with their family or anything, it seems like. But also, would this work very well in the modern day? Like, wouldn't parents be like, turn on your location on your phone, and if your phone wasn't moving, or your phone's in the middle of the, well, no, would you even be able to take your phone to morph? If your phone's like in the middle of the ocean or something, they'd be like, hey, where are you? Or like, what if you didn't text back for like 6 hours because you were out on a mission, 2 hours morphing and stuff like that? Like, I don't know. I think it would be really difficult for it to be written for the modern day, but maybe not. Even back then, though, it's interesting to me that they could just be like, I'm gone all day, and none of the parents are like, where are you? Or, okay, I'll call Cassie to have you come home. You're not at Cassie's. Cassie's not home. You know, like nothing like that. So they get seagull morphs from Cassie's barn. Easy peasy. They fly out in the morning and they find a container ship. No problem, actually. So they find a ship, and Tobias also joined, and he brought the watch for them to like know the time, but he's not actually staying with them the whole time because he's not going to where the ship is going. And they figure they'll wait about an hour, and that'll take them about 20 miles out to sea based on how fast the ship is going. And Tobias leaves. He's like, I'm not going with the ship. It's going to Singapore. I can't fly from forever in the ocean, so you're all on your own. Bye. They wait around for an hour. They are like, all right, we're here. Maybe wherever here is, we're here. And they go to the edge of the ship, and they're like, that is a long ways up. And it probably is. Like, how tall are container ships? I've been on a pretty big ship, and it is like, that's a lot. That's high, isn't it? And it really is really high. Like, what if they dove off the edge and they get injure themselves before they could actually morph, like get a concussion or something, or, you know? And also, Marco can't swim, so he can't dive before he morphs. So they're like, okay, well, we'll just hold Marco at the edge until we can't anymore, because dolphins are like 400 pounds. We can't lift him over the edge. It's all just falling apart. So it all works out. They all jump into the water. Nobody gets hurt. They all morph into dolphins. Here is where I realized, if dolphins are 400 pounds, where are they gaining or losing the extra weight when they morph to or fro? If they're going from like a 100-pound kid to a 400-pound dolphin, where is that mass coming from? And then vice versa when it goes the other way. They all jump over the side, Marco being a half dolphin before he goes. Nobody gets injured. They're morphing while they're in the water, trying to like tread water and like keep breathing before they can, you know, while they finish morphing. And this whole section was just super anxiety inducing for me. Like, I could feel myself holding my breath a lot when they were talking about underwater scenes. And I do it for TV and movies too. Like, any water scenes, I'm just like, I get really anxious, and I'm like, could I hold my breath that long? And I subconsciously end up doing it, and then being like, I gotta like manually breathe here. They think that they're getting close, and so they're like, all right, we're gonna take a big breath and then like dive down and see what we see. Just as they're about to do that, they also see a helicopter flying nearby really slowly, and it has like something in the water, some sort of like cable hanging something in the water. So maybe sonar or something, right? So the Yerks are here. Just before I carry on, my two questions at this point were, how deep can dolphins dive? How long can they hold their breath? Like, what if the Andalite ship is like way too deep? They wouldn't be able to get to it. And what do they do? What is their plan when they find this ship anyways? Like, it's not going to be dolphin friendly, is it? I don't know what their plan is to save the Andalite when they go down there as dolphins, but it's okay. What are they going to do? Have the Andalite ride on their backs, on their little dolphin backs? Because the Andalite can't breathe underwater. I'm getting ahead of myself. The Yerks are here. So are they. But it is amazing that everyone found what they needed to do when the ocean is just so big. They take a big deep breath, dive down, and hit the bottom of the ocean and start swimming along. They get over a ridge, and there it is. The Andalite ship is right there. It's a huge dome, half a mile across, some sort of glass shielding of some sort, blue-green grass, alien trees, clear water. Looks like a little park inside of a glass dome. Here's an image of it now. All of the swimming that they're doing is in one breath. And this was so nerve-wracking for me. They see a little like airlock area and they're like, let's swim in there. Instead of going up for air, let's go in there right now. They go in, boop a little button on the side, and the back of it closes and water starts draining down. They unmorph from their dolphin forms. The water is pretty much gone. They press the panel to open the other side to go into the ship. Flash of light, they get knocked out. They come to, they're being interrogated by an Andalite. He has a weapon similar to the Yerk Dracon beams, but I guess it's just for stunning. My first question is, why is there only one Andalite on a ship this massive? He's questioning them and they're like, no, we're here to save you. And they convince him that like they knew Elfangor and he gave them the power to morph and saved them and stuff like that. And this is Elfangor's brother. He tells them that he's the only survivor because he's too young to fight and everyone else was as like part of the other ship that would be more maneuverable if the dome detached from it. That's why he's the only survivor here on this dome. He saw the ship that the Yerks were in battle with get blown up by the Yerks before he fell to Earth and crashed into the ocean and sank here. The Yerks must have thought that it burnt up. Can't get rid of alien tech that easy. He alludes to how he's sent out a distress call using mirror waves, but then he stops himself because, you know, Andalites can't share their tech. They're greedy. Maybe that's why nobody likes Andalites. I don't know if nobody likes them. He says that they knew about Earth, know that we're not like spacefaring or anything like that. So Andalites could have helped with that. This name on screen, I'm going to try to pronounce it. Aximili Escarothithil. Aximili? Aximili. Ax for brevity. And he pledges his allegiance to Jake, who is the prince, the leader. Because Elfangor was a prince, apparently you need to have royalty. And he's walking around and he's telling him about how here's the name of the trees and the grass and the name of this and that and the other. The Andalites like open areas for running and the Yerks hate that. They take over worlds and they just leave stuff on the planets, just enough stuff to sustain the hosts and kill everything else. Why? I don't know. Also, how do they get rid of all the other life? What about like ecosystems and all that kind of stuff? Like there's a chain. Like if you got rid of everything except for like, what is the bare minimum that you need to get rid of? You know what I mean? I don't know. It just seems like, what if they killed off too much and then there's nothing to sustain the next thing that sustains the next thing so Axe also tells them about how there's only 3 races in the galaxy left that are against the Yerks and only the Andalites are able to stop them. The way he says it is kind of like, are they proud or like arrogant? Like, do they think all these other races are inferior and like Andalites are the heroes? I'm not sure. It sounds like Andalites are really full of themselves so far. And also the galaxy. So like all of this is part of the same galaxy. I know that galaxies are really big and space is really big and like maybe that totally makes sense. My notes were also like, I'm still stuck on the Yerks taking over and just destroying the planet for no reason and then moving on. How's that any worse than what humans are doing though? So Axe is also like, and it's going to take Andalites like probably closer to 2 years to get to Earth. So that's not cool. Rachel is like, if you Andalites are so great, why haven't you stopped the Yerks yet? He doesn't answer. Just says like, some things are forbidden to say. I think maybe the Andalites are the cause of the Yerks being spacefaring or something like that. Maybe the Yerks didn't have tech and then the Andalites showed up and were like, here you go, have some of our tech. And then no, they want to take over everything. And that's why Andalites don't share anymore. They're all rested enough. They're like, we can morph again. That's exactly when one of the Yerk ships, human ships, one of the vessels above stops and is like, found ya. And they start pinging it with sonar and then start dropping like depth charges at the dome ship. Why do they want to blow up everything? I don't know. They could just salvage it, right? Yerks are not interested in technology. They all get to the chamber that they came in on, the staging chamber to the outside, the airlock. They morph into dolphins, and Axe ended up stunning a random creature on Earth, and he morphs into a shark. So very convenient that he, one, has the ability to morph. 2 was able to capture a shark and morph into that. So anyways, he didn't spend all of his time just sitting here twiddling his thumbs. They're all swimming away. The dome ship's getting blown up. Axe is like, I think we're probably safe, right? Hork-Bajir can't swim, and humans aren't like the best swimmers, but taxons are. And so a bunch of taxons start jumping into the water, and they swim really well. This whole time, like they leave the ship as their dolphin selves. They never talk about going to the surface to take breaths. So this whole like section is underwater in my like mind. And that was very distressing for me. And Axe is like, I think that this body I'm in might be a fighter. Can I attack the taxons? They're like, heck yeah, you can. Shark's good fighter. And so taxons can swim, but like they're no match for dolphins and a shark. And they take out a handful. There's 12 taxons, but they take out a few and then decide to run. The initial plan was to swim for a small nearby island and unmorph, rest, morph, swim back. And that was already going to take nearly 2 hours at top speed for dolphins. And the fight lasted for 35 minutes. So they're way out of time. Axe here is like, actually, we have used up 30% of our time limit. Like, he seems to be able to like track the morphing time limit like to the percentage or something. So Visser 3's ship, Blade ship, turns up and starts hovering over the ocean. They finally go up for air and see that. I hate all this underwater stuff. They go up for air and they're like, wait, where'd the ship go? Like, they saw it at least once and they go back up and it's gone. So maybe it cloaked or something. And they hear something big splash into the water. And it's a new morph for Visser 3, a Mardrut, which is just turd ram backwards. But anyways, it's a big aquatic creature from one of the Andalite moons, and it starts chasing them down. I just have to be amazed at how all of these alien creatures, the Andalites, the taxons, the Mardrut, like all of this can just survive on the conditions of Earth. All of these creatures that we have had to adapt to be living here. Apparently it's no big deal. Even if it's a saltwater ocean, you could just throw whatever in there and it's totally fine. You can't even take like a regular fish and put it in the wrong kind of water. A regular fish, a human fish, an earthling fish. Axe is like, wow, I'm impressed you know who Visser 3 is and that you've all survived him before. And so they're all just spending this time being chased by Visser 3 as this big monster, using up all their energy to like swim away, but he's slowly gaining on them and he's taunting him the whole time. Like, I'm gonna get you, and he like gaining on them very, very slowly. And Axe starts like freaking out. Apparently he's not calm under the pressure, or at least in Visser 3's presence, which is just amazing because like he seemed like he would be so cool. Like, I'm the Andalite, of course, you know, but like, nope, he's not stoic. They've been swimming for over an hour at this point and they're like losing all their energy. He's catching up slow. Visser is catching up slowly. They're like, what are we gonna do? Cassie is like, I don't know, and she starts like echolocating like a dolphin distress call, like, anything out there, please help. There's like 20 minutes left in their morph time, which also means the Visser doesn't have very long, right? Like, he wouldn't want to be trapped as whatever he's in, right? And wait. Okay, does the creature that Visser 3 morphs into have a brain that the Yeerk needs to keep controlling? Like, what happens to the, like, what if he picks like a jellyfish or something like that where there's nothing for the Yeerk to like control? Like, I don't know how this works. They decide like, we can't outrun him forever. Let's just turn and face him and go down fighting. As they turn to face him, a pod of whales comes up from the bottom of the ocean and slams into Visser 3 while he's like, he can't see under him, I guess. And they ram him up and start smacking him with their tails at the surface of the water. And they say it was a pod of sperm whales and the humpback whale that they saved earlier. The Visser's just like, I can't take this, and like takes off and lets the whales chase him off. But do different whales pod up like that? And also, can whales like intermingle the way that like dogs can? I'm just curious if you could get like a spermback whale or something. The humpback lets them all sit on his back, on his humpty back, and they unmorph to like before their time gets up. Actually, the whale brought them back to the river. Cassie fell asleep and she wakes up and the whale had traveled with them on its back all the way as close as it could to where the river was meeting the ocean, which, what? how did it know where to go? How did the whale know where they wanted to go? And also, how wild would it have been for anybody to have seen like a whale with 4 kids and an Andalite riding on it? Like, that would have been something. Anyways, they all make it back to their starting spot and like put on their clothes and stuff. And Axe, he's a lot like Castiel in Supernatural. He's like, why do you need to put these things on? You can't walk around naked around here. I guess Andalites don't have clothes, right? And so they're like, what are we going to do? Where's Axe going to stay? And how are we going to get him there? So Axe goes around, acquires Cassie, Rachel, Marco, and Jake's DNA, and morphs into like a conglomeration of all of them. Apparently that's a thing he can do. Okay, so could the other ones morph into humans at all? And what is a human brain when it's morphed? Like, what are the like instincts that he has to like to manage here? And does he get the memories that like the humans have? Or like, I don't know. Brains are weird, okay? Axe morphs and they're like, is he a boy or a girl? Why does it matter? But Axe is like, I chose to be a male. Apparently you can choose that. I got a choice too. Luckily, they had an extra shirt and boxers for him. Convenient. Axe puts that on. And he's just like getting used to walking on 2 legs and like how hands work and like, how do you see behind you? There's no eyes and stuff like that. And like the speech is the biggest thing. Like the way Axe talks, he's like trying to get used to his lips and he like repeats words and sounds and stuff like that. Wouldn't he be able to use thought speech though? So they cut from that to a couple of days later, and Axe is living on like the fields and natural forest area behind Cassie's house. And Cassie snuck out at night and flew from her house to the gardens as a seagull. And she went to the dolphin tank and climbed into it with all the, apparently the tank is just open and she could get there. And she climbs into it, no guards in this place, morphs into a dolphin, because she wanted to tell the dolphins somehow what they did and get permission to like morph into them and stuff. And instead she morphs into a dolphin and just starts playing as a dolphin. And that's the end of the book. And I swear, if the next book opens with Cassie being trapped as a new 7th dolphin at the gardens, that would be so amazing. That's not going to happen, but could you imagine? All right, my thoughts on the book. It didn't take long for the author to introduce the new Andalite character. I think that's kind of nice. So they have a new member of the cast. That's going to be able to allow for a lot more like, I mean, there's a lot of explanations already given, but like now maybe they don't have to yada yada as much. The Andalite can be like, yes, this is that tech that we have, or I recognize this thing as this thing, or something like that. Or the humans can explain to the Andalite like, you need to like be aware of this, that, or the other on Earth. They had a new environment with the ocean, so like that's a 4th new environment for the 4th book. Basically gives good access to lots of different animals and different types of animals. I think at some point though, they're gonna sort of like hone in on only using certain types of animals, you know, like eagles for the air and tigers for the fights on land and stuff like that. I also don't know why sometimes they're totally fine all being the same animal, dolphins or seagulls. And then other times they're like, no, I'm a falcon and you're an eagle and you're a hawk. I'm curious what happened to the Visser. He must have unmorphed, but like, how did he get back to his ship? It doesn't matter. How did none of the ship? I mean, if he got back to his ship, wouldn't they be able to be like, yeah, we'll pick you up. And also, we'll go grab that whale who's got all the humans on top. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Also, the Visser seems just as arrogant as the Andalites. Like, how does he keep losing is like his thought process, I think. We learned a little bit more about the Yeerks, at least from the Andalites' perspective. I don't know why they would want to destroy the planets that they take over. To what end? Like, why not just keep it in equilibrium or something? Like, I don't really know. The way it's described is like the Yeerks just hate other species for being happy. These last 2 books have been pretty short. I've noticed that it feels like the story is just like going, boom, it's the end of the book, it's over. The Andalites, like I said, they sound kind of smug, like not wanting to share their knowledge and hoarding it, but like, would humans do any better? You know, stupid prime directives. Overall, I think it was pretty good. I definitely hated all the underwater stuff, which most of the book was. I'm hoping that there's not a lot of that for a little while. The fox at the start of the book, what happened to that? I want to know what happens to the fox. It never comes up again once it's chased off. Well, the author seems to do that, just like introduce a little tiny thing and then just never mention it again. But at least did they fix the hole that the fox was going through? I know that there's aliens, but what about the fox? Maybe I'm just used to like movies being like, if it's shown, you better do something with it because it's important. Maybe that's not the case. Not everything is like a clue. All right, well, that's all I got to say about this book. Feel free to leave me a comment about anything you think I missed, anything you would like me to include going forward, anything you want to add. Feel free to subscribe. Until next time, thank you for listening.